Nigeria Atlantic FM. My name is Shira Ukbong, and of course, my guest is an economic analyst, one person, so he's a revenue consultant. He's also known a lot of one or two things about the economy of Nigeria and, of course, apart from how to move it away from what Mr. Daniel Young is our guest. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Shira. Good afternoon, Akwa Ibom people. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. It's nice to have you on the show. Let's look at let's just start. Let's use history as a parameter of what has been happening in the country and happening in the state. Successful businessmen, was it their success? Could it be linked to support from government, or how would you say they came about these successes?
Okay. Well, you cannot rule out government entirely in economic prosperity or business success, because governments provide basic infrastructure for you to operate. Governments adopt systems which give entrepreneur room to own a business. For instance, like there are other systems of government they may adopt in a country or a state that may not give you right to do business, give you stiff regulations for you to be able to even own an asset. But here, we are so thankful to our government adopting democracy, a system of government that gives the private individual right to own an asset, and that gives to establishment of businesses. So by the time you roll out government in any business success, you don't look at government only at a point of funding or provision of capital. You look at government in a very wider public policies that they have provided for business environment to exist. So when you look at government in that regard, you realize that the government, some of the business prosperities has a contribution of government effort for individual and private sector to succeed, or private businesses to succeed.
But before we talk about the event that happened last week, which was very memorable, let's quickly look at some of the things government could do to encourage an entrepreneur to succeed. Let's look at some of those things government should do.
All right. First of it all, I want to commend the present government's efforts, the efforts of His Excellency Pastor Umoino, on launching of the 400 million naira grants for 800 trained beneficiaries from Ibom is a welcome development, is a very good step in the right direction. The government rules in economic development is to stimulate and promote the economic activities. That's one way of promoting and stimulating a economy. So the 400 billion naira grants will go a long way to at least initiate business idea. All those that have already initiated business idea, validate them and launch them. So speaking in that respect of this context, accelerating the businesses. One of the programs that produced the 800 people from Ibom, the Entrepreneurship Accelerators program. So the general concept of accelerator is escalated in 3 stages. The start, that is people who did not validate a business idea, will then access funds to at least try to validate what they do. People that have had a valid business idea will now want to launch the business, and people that are already in a proven traction of business will now want to expand. So when you look at accelerating businesses, entrepreneurship in that 3 escalated stages, you find out that government provision for funding will really stimulate the economy. But that's not all. What just happened on 2nd May 2024 by His Excellency Pastor Umoino is very good, but I will still implore the state that we should look at developing our business sector, the private sector, the entrepreneurship in a complete phase, so that we can now talk about sustainability. Program like that, if we trace back to previous administration, in administration of Obong Victor Tai, they came out with a program and integrated farmer schemes. I think the beneficiaries went to their businesses with a sum of 500,000 as at that time.
Initially it was 200,000.
Initially was 200,000 later. So similar programs, if you look at this accelerator program, you know, the beneficiaries, from what we learned, at least the individual will go with 500,000 naira. But what we want to look at it is that the sustainability, the 800 trained beneficiaries, how can we sustain them? Because if you say the initial grant is there to take their business life completely, I would say no. So I believe that for business to thrive, there are stages of funding, and if you understand the concept of business, every business has 50-50 chance of succeeding and failing. So when this comes to the mind of the policy maker, that if you empower somebody with a capital to start business at a certain stage, sometimes if the stage is not properly classified or categorized and just give at a random, there are some that will want to even try to initiate the business idea. All this will take cost. The one that already had a business idea will want to launch it, will take cost. A newly launched business may fail. And one thing about business involved capital investment, and one of the characteristics of the capital investment is that it's irreversible. I will explain that irreversibility of a characteristics of a capital investment is that if you put in 1 naira to start a business, along the way you could not start the business to a level that you've been able to take the business product to the market. Something happens, you need some money to complete the investment. You cannot recover what you invested. You cannot. If you want to recover it, you will lost some. That is the characteristics of capital investment. Okay. The irreversible characteristics of capital investment. So understanding these facts is that if you are setting people in a state to go and start a business, they must have a follow-up program, follow-up funding program for those that will meet this type of challenges. So that is why I'm saying that the government has done it very well to at least start and get something to stimulate the economy. The 800 beneficiaries, there should be a follow-up program for them, because from the look of things, if they were picked at random, some of them for expansion, some of them to start, some of them to even go and look for what to do, that will involve development of business plan. There are some that 500,000 will finish at the point of development of a feasible business plan. or what will be left is not enough to acquire any assets to start the business. So when there is no follow-up plan, you still find out that some of these people cannot progress. Some they will go to launch the business. Sometimes when they were applying for the grant, the prices of their assets has changed between when the grant is given and when they had the business plan. So getting the money now, they still need additional capital to take off, and they don't have it. What will happen? And another characteristic of capital investment is that capital investment means use of the money capital to acquire assets. Assets in a layman terms, anything that will bring returns. When money is converted to assets, that money, if you allowed it to take a longer time without meeting the expected time that the business should have taken off, sometimes you miss the market. There will be challenges because every business has terms, has there's this thing we call tenure. There are tenure, profit tenure in business. There are stages in business. When you describe the market you want to sell, there's time the market at the infant, maturity, decline. So that's how you have a business plan. When the market was at the infant, you now wait. You don't know the competitors have breached the market to maturity stage. So you're going there, you face difficulties to break even. All these things are what catapult or takes you to breaking evens in the business. So sometimes incomplete capital may delay you to take advantage of the market at when it was planned. It may delay you, may delay entrance. It may delay entrance to the market, because early entrance to the market will help your business to succeed. So that is why for this entrepreneurship accelerating program to really succeed, there must be a follow-up program. There must be a follow-up program on these people. These set 800 people should be followed up to a level that they see that their business is operating in the market. They cannot do it themselves. They cannot do it. Let us not be deceived. Our governor passionately advised them to do what they can. Yes, that was word of advice. But in business environment, it's more of action than words. You have to take actions that will be transformed to that statement. You understand? And they are in business world. There are different business intermediaries, support program that can serve as well as that advice. So, because of these challenges, these 800 people must be followed up. They must be followed up, not necessarily not to misuse the money, but to provide the necessary support program for some challenges they will face in the way of launching their business or even in expansions. There's no level stages of business that does not face challenges in the business environment.
Okay, let me practically ask you. In case you're tuning in, the program is a mandate on Radio Nigeria Atlantic FM. We're looking at government approach towards entrepreneurship. I'm a revenue consultant and a seasoned analyst on entrepreneurship. Mr. Daniel Young is doing justice to the topic. We're looking at Ibom led recently via the collaboration with the Akwa State government, gave out about 800 million or 400 million rand to about 800 beneficiaries. Now let's be frank, 500,000. Is it enough to sustain business?
Well, business and business are not the same. and the targets for every program, they have a target. I believe that's for micro business.
Okay.
Micro businesses, that is between individual and one or two persons. Not about the sustainability. It's about where you want to start. You get. For those that have been having this passion, I will do this. That can facilitate you to come out with a workable business plan, such that an institution can now fund you. But that's just to stimulate. It's just to stimulate. Let's not use the word sustainability. Let's just the word stimulation and promotion. The government is in the direction of trying to promote entrepreneurship. Sustainability entails a lot. It entails growth and consistency. That may that may not really sustain, but it can stimulate you to sustainability. It can promote you to success. So that's government starts at stimulating. To us, we look at that as a stimulus package for the people, which is the responsibility of the government to do that. So now, when we want to go into sustainability, that's when I call for follow-up program.
Now, let's look at how successful has government follow-ups been effective. When we look at, we'll check in our history. Do we have a proper follow-up?
Well, in business, what has not been can be. You understand? It's not necessarily that government follow-up has been failing, that this particular program cannot be followed up successfully, because of we have a brand new administration, a brand new leader with vision and passion to see that the state is developed economically. So by the time you employ those sophisticated infrastructure, we should not look at only road as infrastructure. There are business infrastructure that will help certain program already, like Ibomlet is an infrastructure now in the state. That is why I'm saying that the government already has a step in the right direction. Ibomlet, if you look at the entire package of that program, it is an infrastructure that I've been praying for. They have a concept of business school coming into you, and I want us to understand that businesses are not form are not best form in one's parlor. Businesses are best form in let's say in a business group, like business school, where you meet the real people, the real idea, the real analyst, the real skill. You are interacting in the classroom, you are sharing the idea. So best companies form out of that place. So it's like Ibomlet is an infrastructure that we really need, not even one in the state. We need many of such gathering in the state, because that is where you can really form a sustainable businesses. So I talk about the follow-up program. A business capital is what we call capital structure. That is the mix of different sources of fund that you use in doing business. Here we always talk about loan here, loan that. Business, the use of money in the financial world are being classified depending on their function and how they can take certain risks. Their risk loan can take, their risk loans will take it with a lot of stress. May likely to fail if you really use loan. So money is like that. So that is why I'm talking about this follow-up program. There are certain capacities we need in form, whether in form of financial infrastructure, institution and management capacities that we need to support entrepreneurship program, not just dispensing fund. One man management and training given, what one or two head will do, one head cannot do. No matter amount of capacities, there's limitations. So business is vast, so such that in economy, for instance, let me take example of Silicon Valley. When I analyze that place was in a business environment, you find out that Silicon Valley it's not matter of just the tech guys, the skill guys, the practical real skill guys. You see, before Silicon Valley becomes pronounced, there is a financial architecture that holds Silicon Valley. So it is the financial architecture that promote the tech skill, the real skill, palpable skill you can see, to reality. It is the one that we call it innovations. Do you understand? What type of financial architecture? It wasn't only loan. About 500 and above of private equity firms came together to form what is called Silicon, or what was called Silicon Bank, because the bank fell last year. I hope it is no more in existence. It runs into financial crisis last year. So they formed what was called Silicon Valley Bank. So this private equity firm, you know what function of a private equity? Private equity does not just provide funding to entrepreneurs. It provides management, financial management capabilities to entrepreneurs. So with that, the entrepreneur is capable of attracting more fund in the business. So now, while the Silicon Valley Bank is there to provide loan facility, the private equity firm also providing financial management, while the tech guy will give tech management. You see, those three things. The tech guy will know how to write code, manage himself very well. The private equity guys will be the one to allocate fund operations, raise fund. There are two important investment decisions. For a business to stand, there must be ability to raise fund and also manage the fund, allocate the fund. We call it allocate the expenditure. We call it allocation of fund into different expenditure packages. Profile.
Let's still go back to what happened. The grant. It was a grant given by the state government to these beneficiaries. From your own recommendations, taking into cognizance that it's supposed to be a loan, knowing that somebody getting it will be planning on how to repay, but they are giving me a grant. That means I can walk out with it. I'm not responsible to anybody. What are your recommendations in that direction?
Okay, yes, it is not wrong for government to give a grant, especially in economy, stagnated economy like what we have in Akwa Ibom State. One thing you need to understand, loan, is that you don't just give loan to anyhow person. It's what we call credit analysis before you give loan. You give loan to somebody that will be able to repay. But even in a general assessment, you don't have this type of person. But you still need to create something, make something to happen. That is why the government is starting with grants. Calling it loan will be just.
But will the participant be serious about it?
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. So at this point in time, the way the state, the level, giving a loan where will the person be able to repair? Now the government wants you to stand up, begin to think. If you have a business plan, you have way to pay transport and go and get information. You need to meet an accountant, you have 10,000 to pay, and ask him to help you prepare certain document, financial plan, balance sheet, income statement. Want to approach a bank, or you want to attend a program training, you get? Because when we hear business, you don't just jump into markets, you understand? You will fail. You need some cognizant skills to do that. So that is why that money, if a government is not looking at, if it is grants, government is not looking at recovering it. It's looking at transforming you into certain states, mental states of business, economic development. It will transform you. So that is why the governor implore that the beneficiary should not use the money outside the objective, because you may not own a business, but you may raise your mental well-being to a business-like level. You get? With that fund, you may expose yourself. Business do more with exposure to the system. You may expose yourself to something you used to hear. You have no access to such documents, such facilities, such people, such relationship that can transform you tomorrow to a company. You understand? There are businesses, there are how you prepare yourself, you become an asset. People will want to use your skills and services. So with IBOM-led and that fund, the beneficiary can be innate. But one thing is that when there is no direct program to recall, work and follow up the 800%, that will be when the thing will give less advantage, less stimulation to the economy. So by the time there is a direct program to incorporate them and see what they can do, and also provide another ledger of funding, because even with that 500,000, only few will be able to attract additional fund from the commercial sources of fund. Is what we call commercial sources of fund. That is the bank. When you've been able to overweigh certain risks in business, bank can loan you money. When your business at the level that is flowing is returning, the break-evens, not necessarily break-even, but at the level that the business is flowing with some level of certainty, certain risks have been reduced. So from there you can now be working with commercial sources of fund. So government is trying to lift people to this level, because people keep asking questions: why all these banks? Why can't I get loan? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? Why can't they work you? The level of risk that you are into, if deposit money is given to you as loan, you may not be able to repay, and the bank will run into trouble. You get? So now it is the duty of the government to lift the society, the private sector, from that level of risk to a commercial level. There's a level you operate in business, you become commercially viable for commercial sources to give you money, for commercial sources to be interested in you. So that's what the government is doing. That's when you can now talk about giving loan, giving more money, recovering. For now, government is investing. It's investing to develop you, the beneficiary. They've trained you. I believe government must have partnered with the IBOM-led to train them, give them mental well-being of the business, and now give you a little fund. Try, use what you've learned, bring it to the physical world, whether you succeed or not, but have a record of what you do. Because one thing about business, you may start and fail, but the benefit is that there's a whole lot of experience deposited in you.
We're going to talk about the sustainability, but we want to look at one other aspect. But let's still focus on this the sustainability program of these beneficiaries to ensure they still stay on the business? What are the approaches?
Okay, that's a very good question. Yeah. For them to be sustainable, today there are different forms. I will speak on in regards how government should spend for them to be sustainable. You know, there are two theories, two modern theories apart from Adam Smith's theory of economics. Those supply demand theory. Another theory, Keynesian theory, came. Keynesian theory brought this idea of government expenditure and raising money to influence, to control economy. It was the one that propounded the idea that government goes to give, like, spend money like that, grants to private people. That's Keynesian theory of economics. He said that before now, then, government used to stay. We used to believe in invisible hand in economy, that demand and supply will be the one to turn the fortune of economy. Government should not spend on the private sector. So around 1940, Keynesian theory was John Maynard Keynes, a British mathematician, came and said, no, government, you have to play a role. You have to spend, make budget, spend on the private sector, that it will grow. But after a while, after that, economy went into Great Depression in 1930. So the theory came back, they resurfaced and saw that the Keynesian theory had some shortcomings. Some shortcomings in the sense that it led the economy to inflation. So they now come to a conclusion that the theory is not sustainable, in the sense that it has short-term impact. That if government keep giving money direct, building, spent on the private sector, economy will likely run into inflation. When there is inflation, there is recession. When there's recession, economy is not producing, it's not returning. So another theories came out around 1976, something like that. They call it monetarist theories. Those ones said that government will not only spend, government will learn to use some financial, to control some financial factor for them to grow economy sustainably. So those theories now, in today, presently, as metamorphosis to what we have today, like monetarist theory, they have come together to a point they merge. Both the Keynesian and the monetarists has come to mesh together. So now is that government does not go direct now to spend on the private sector. What government does now is to provide financial infrastructure that will hit the spending. I'm talking about sustainability. That is like I'm coming out with the complete theoretical aspect of that. Government, if you want to sustain your private sector, is to provide, when we say provision of infrastructure, not just real. In financial terms, we have what we call real investment and financial investment. You don't go into real infrastructure alone. You have to also go into financial infrastructure, and you find out what are these financial infrastructure. Financial infrastructure will lead the state to having a lot of financial development. For instance, in this state, if we talk about what is equity, private equity, in business, startup companies best developed with equity funding than loan. But do we have capacity for equity funding? It's not that we don't have money, because equity is private equity is supposed to come from private individual, private companies. But it is the duty of the government to create a platform that will orientate those that are having the capacity to launch equity firms to do so by making those provisions through legislations and funding. Some of the consolidated revenue fund that is transferred into capital development, some of the capital fund should be transformed into private equity companies. How would that work? Like one of the mission statement or key objectives of the present administration is rural area. But that's in focus. There should be a rural area private equity companies. The first set of company, not just fund. It's not enough for you to create funds. Fund must be transformed into a functional groups and companies, people working with specialties. Because, for instance, economy that is technologically dominated has technologically, financially knowledgeable managers. Economy that is agriculturally prone will have agriculturally financial managers. Because one thing in finance is that the way you use money in agriculture is not the way you use money on tech. So that is why if you want to develop your state, you must have financial expert relating to the sector you want to use, so that any fund they bring, they will be able to make sure that the fund does not lost in the thin air. They will understand the markets of that sector. So the first thing, now that we are talking about our rural area, financially, our rural area is level with certain level of risk. So we need some financial managers who will be able to weather the risk and take money in there and take money out. But when we have that platform, we will now, because there's one principle of money attracts money. So by the time the state fund can go in there and come out, the commercial fund will join.
All right, we're going to go through that. We'll look at the follow-up, but let me quickly acknowledge that we're still on the program The Mandate on Radio Nigeria Atlantic FM here in Uyo. And our guest is, of course, an economist. He's been doing justice to all that we've said. We're talking about the state government providing fund for entrepreneurs recently. We're trying to analyze how successful that would be. He has talked about sustainability, that they have to ensure there is an arrangement to sustain these businesses so that it must go on and not disappear. He has made several comments about that. We're still going to go on that, but let's open our phone line so that we can join us. Government approach towards entrepreneurship, especially we're talking about Akwa Ibom, and the present government, Pastor Moino, recently doled out 400 million naira to 800 beneficiaries of the Entrepreneur Accelerator Program. And how will that be effective? Is that good enough? Is it applaudable? Can we next see them in the next 5 years and call them millionaires because they were given these grants by the state government for them to be productive? Let's have your opinion. Do you applaud that? What are your advice? What more should be done? He's talked about the complete first. We're going to talk about what we mean by complete first. In putting up that kind of initiative, what's the complete first? What was not complete in the first? He'll be telling us that. But let's open the phone line. Join us and be part of this discussion on The Mandate on Radio Nigeria Atlantic FM here in New York. The phone number to join us is 0703 785 0561. The number to call us again is 0703 785 0561. Join us in this discussion this afternoon. All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sheila.
Yeah, so your name and where you're calling us from?
Yeah, good afternoon, the guest in the studio.
Okay.
I remain Joseph Dan. I'm calling from South Africa.
Okay.
Our guest there has spoken very, very well. and I'm impressed. But I still have something to say. You see, in this part of the world, there are some things that needs to be properly handled. When I was young, we had companies in Ido, there's there Cross River, who took motors. We had other groups, that were thriving. We had companies like Calsemco. So many Bestonis, Champion Brewery that was doing better than it is now. We had Plasto Crown, we had Port Steel Company, we had the Kwa River Hotel. We have even the paint industry that the last I tried to consolidate and it failed woefully. We had the Plasto Crown. We even had Sunshine Batteries in Nicolek and the Biscuit Factory. All of these today are nowhere to be found. I won't even go to Okuiboko and Ascom, Nicolabas. One thing seems to be common among all those things. They somehow fell flat along the way. What was responsible for those things? Because what we are seeing today is a recurring factor. The last admission, we were told we had 25 industries. Not one of them is seen to the except from air. So I would like the guests there. So please come up with factors that were responsible for the collapse of those industries within our own clients. Some people say it is simple for that companies cannot thrive this. Or all kinds of theories have been banned. So that economy is there. I want you to find what do you think was responsible for those things, and how can those things be avoided now that we are talking of Ibombe, so that we won't go through the same route again and come back with stories tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very that's a very interesting one. As an economist, we're looking at what we're responsible for the downfall of those industries. We had plenty of them, like you just mentioned them. While we're growing up, we heard them, and they are no more. They were source of employment and all that. Why did those companies fail? And why can the upcoming companies or the ones who are having the beneficial coming up will not fail? Let's begin at it. I'd like he's describing it more.
Yeah.
And me, I was like,
thank you very much.
Is it that we're having the Igbo succeed in business? And I quite want to answer this. So it doesn't have to do with bloodline or something like that. Let's hear from you.
Thank you very much for that question. It's a good one. The just a straight answer. Lack of capital sources. Take notes. Lack of capital recapitalization sources. Please, I want us to understand one thing about business. No matter how big is the company, every business has a tenure of generating profit. That same business, the Dangote you are seeing today, somewhere 2012, Dangote regrouped to Dangote Cement and changed the icon. They were small Dangote salt, Dangote this, Dangote that. So if you check, it's not that Dangote you used to know in the year 2000. Up to that time, they regrouped Dangote. That regroup, what does the means? Recapitalization. At that point, with all the assets the Dangote has, could not return enough. They have to re-strategize and move into cement, take assets from other small business, form a big Dangote Cement, and flow into the capital market. Else, Dangote would have maybe dead that time. You see. So, what happened for Dangote to have gotten capital at that time? There were sources that funded the company. So, all this we are mentioning, all these companies, Okuiboko, all this falling. That's I'm saying. I mentioned private equity firm in an economy like in Akwa Ibom State. You cannot depend on government fund. To recently, Jubilee Sinridge company, I had they've closed down. It's still the problem, still the same problem. And that is why I'm saying the current economic theories have come together. Keynesian school and monetary school have joined together. Now the real game is that you don't even need, government does not need to go and build any business. Just set the financial development means provision of multiple sources of capital in the economy. And one source is that the economy, that is why Obama knew this concept. when he pray about that time always mention a development of Akwa Ibom state economy. You see what he did. He brought Uyo Stock Exchange.
Stock exchange.
Do you know the function of that? The stock exchange is where you angel investors, different investors meet at private level, at public level. There's two arms of stock exchange. The private, whereby individual can meet and exchange stock that is regulated by Security and Exchange Commission. When you don't take business to a level that certain regulator man certain exchanges in the business, you've not established a business sector. So at that time, when that thing came, I believe the succeeding government did not understand the concept and how it works. Because if you have a stock exchange in the state, you have to develop private equity firms that will be exchanging capital in that platform, intermediaries. So at that point, Uyo Stock Exchange stayed without no business. Few bank brands that used to go, they could not go again, because what you need to know about commercial bank will always work with where there is businesses happening. Any place that money does not come in, commercial bank alone cannot maintain that place. Transaction alone. So now, if the succeeding government understood the concept
Of the stock exchange.
of the stock exchange, it would have developed a lot, transformed. For now in our economy, we don't have to mince word. It's about transforming consolidated revenue into private capital and regulate them to use the exchange. Therefore, the entrepreneur will go to the exchange and source the capital to do business. You understand? Source the capital from there. From there, those that source capital from there can now get loan from commercial banks. Because when you get equity fund, if you understand capital, there's what we call capital structure, capital mix. If it's 60% is equity fund, 20% is loan, or 40% is loan, that type of company has less risk. Banks can give that company more loan. You get. And all this, we are talking about development of private sector. There are some index indications 1 year is down the line. We talk about development of rural areas. We need to see some companies forming in the rural areas. What type of companies? The first set of companies should form in the rural area is equity companies, finance companies. In today's world, if you want to develop economy, start with developing finance companies. Finance companies are capital mobilizers. They are the one mobilizing, allocating capital in the economy. And capital is being allocated depending on sector and sources. Types of business. The one that is producing palm oil is risk. Financial risk is different from the one that is producing palm kernel oil. And private equity is a specialty kind of financial business. I may decide to incubate. They are the one incubating businesses in the economy. That's their work.
Okay.
And it creates employment. So the problem there is that if you are establishing a company here and there is no capital recapitalization sources and you are depending on the government house, the government account, political changes will make you cannot access the change of we call it political changes, risks, political risks in business. So that is just the game. Right. So now what the government needs to do, the government needs to change method of rushing to build a real factories and this, rather build finance company. Pick some Akwa Ibom people, those that wants to specialize in palm kernel fund management, those that wants to specialize in palm oil processing fund management, the tomato, yam, cassava. Let them go for finance. Just how financial market of that community are managed. Let them come. There they want to go into villages and pick the real farmers, pick the real fame, pick the real oil producers. Those ones, whether the present government is alive or is not alive, when you create that sector, if you have companies that open with initial public offer in that regard, whether there is political changes or no political changes, those companies will continue to grow. If you start with forming capitals companies before you go into real asset investment companies, you will have a sustainable sector. But if you rush and build palm oil processing factory and employ machine, the machine will tear and wear will meet the machine. They will need replacement of the machine. The governor will change, and the new governor may not want to invest there, and that will be the end of the business. But if there is a private equity company who probably is a public liability company that he can open his shares to the masses to bring money for him to put in that fame, the company will go on.
All right, we have about 5 more minutes to go. I felt like we'd just entertain one more call before we round up the program. 07037850561. Just one more call before we can go. And you talked about the recent. Okay, I think we have another call. Is it? All right. Good afternoon.
Yeah, sure. Please permit me to come in again. This is Joseph Daniel from South Africa. I've read what the response he has made, because that's exactly what happened to Amakwe refinery that was to start in Akwa Ibom. Urban Victor invested $10 million. But when there was a change of government, the managers of Amakwe refused to play ball with their party. And that is how Amakwe refinery went into oblivion. Now I want to ask one or two questions. Please, what does the state government think of Ibom Air? Do we continue with this government funding of Ibom Air? Because I fear that if this continues, there's a change of government. Ibom Air may not enjoy the support it is enjoying today. So why can't the Akwa Ibom state government go into the capital market and float Ibom Air so that there will be private equity participation? The company will not be owned by Akwa Ibom as shareholders. Number two, what do you think about that resolution passed by Akwa Ibom House Assembly, Akwa Ibom Youth Fund Development Bill that was passed? And the state government, as at then, we don't be mind, refuse to give assent to it. Don't you think that will have solved some of the problems you are now facing today that Ibom is now trying to address? Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's. We have about 40 more minutes to play.
Okay. Yes, that is always my recommendation that when you start a business, at the start, Ibom A has whether the risks of starting, they've launched, is operating now. The next, I implore the administration of His Excellency Pastor Moino for him to make us convinced that we have aviation sector operating, or a company operating in Nigeria. Let Ibom A go public, privatize Ibom A, and ensure that within the 8 years, because I'm sure it will make 8 years, 8 years of administration of Pastor Moino, if Ibom A is privatized and run as a public liability company, it will now open for us. Like me, I'm interested in earning from Ibom A. I will invest so that Ibom A can always mop capital from the masses. And the principle of mopping capital is from your immediate environment, city that has the interest of the company. If you go to USA, some of the suburbs, they have some companies. Once the companies open, they are the one they first put in their money. Some people invest money with buyers. I must invest in my home. You don't take it like now for me to go and invest in a company that domicile in Lagos. My state is there. There's so many. If I see a good company in palm oil sector, palm fruit sector, I would like to put my money home, knowing that the sector is veritable. So this is the kind of economic scope the present administration needs to open. Try and train individuals to level they pass the test of Security and Exchange Commission, capital markets, investment trust laws, all those regulators. When we have Akwa Ibom people who can move through the track of regulation and come out, we will have a sustainable sector.
All right, the time is actually not friendly. In one line or two lines, you talked about the complete first, and when it has to do with giving out of this grant, he said it should have been in a complete first.
Yes.
What did you mean by that? In just one word.
Yes, a complete.
One sentence.
Yes, a complete first is that there should be equity support, private equity companies. They should launch a private equity companies that follow up these trend people, meet them. Their target is to do that. You understand? If they come out with their share, I will buy it.
Okay.
I will buy it, contribute my capital for them to develop, make sure that some of these small entrepreneurs have turned into companies from start, build to expansion.
Thank you very much. An economic analyst and revenue consultant, Mr. Daniel Young, has been our guest, a wonderful guest. And I'm learning economics now. I'm trying to understand some of those terminologies, and certainly would want to also get into business and understand the basis of it. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation. We can't forget to thank our producer, Ubon. Okay, she certainly, after a prestigious position, she has come back. My name is Cheryl Bob. Wishing you a pleasant day ahead.